We're reading chapter 1 of Wizards of Once. And Tsar's brother Luther has just turned up. Luther was a lot bigger than Tsar. He was nearly as tall as their father. He was brilliant at magic. He was good looking, and my goodness, didn't he know it? He was the smuggest smug wizard you could possibly imagine, and he often sneaked on Tsar to get him into trouble. "What are you doing here, Luther?" stormed Tsar suspiciously. Look at him standing up to Luther. "Oh, I just followed you to see what unbelievably stupid and pointless thing my ickle baby brother was doing this time," drawled Luther. "Great leaders like me don't do pointless expeditions," fumed Tsar. "We're here for a reason. It's none of your business, but..." Tsar considered telling Luther some elaborate lie about what he was doing, but he couldn't resist showing off. "We're going to catch ourselves a witch," boasted Tsar proudly. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. This was the first time that Tsar had mentioned to his followers the purpose of their expedition, and it was very unwelcome news indeed. A witch! The bear, the snowcats and the wolves went very still and began to shake. Even Ariel, the wildest and most afraid of Tsar's sprites, unafraid of Tsar's sprites, shot up into the air and momentarily disappeared. "There were witches in this part of the Badwoods now, I know it," whispered Tsar excitedly, as if a witch was a delightful sort of present that he was offering everyone. There was a long silence, and then Luther and his wizard followers began to laugh. They laughed and they laughed and they laughed. Oh, I've got the light on. They laughed and they laughed and they laughed. "Oh, come on, Tsar," Luther said at last, once he got his breath back. "Even you must know that witches have been extinct for centuries." "Ah, yes," said Tsar. "What if some of them survived and have been biding their time? Here's what I found in this very clearing only yesterday." Out of his rucksack he carefully took an enormous, gigantic black feather. It was huge, like the feather of a crow, but much, much larger. A soft black, fading at the end to a glowing, dark, shiny green, the colour of a mallard's head. "It's a witch feather," whispered Tsar. Luther smiled his most superior smile. "That's just the feather of some big old bird," scoffed Luther. "Some giant crow. You get some weird things living in the Badwoods." Tsar frowned and hung the feather from his belt. "I've never seen a bird as big as this one must be," said Tsar grumpily. "It's all nonsense," smiled Luther. "Only a brainless fool like you wouldn't know that. Witches were destroyed forever." Caliburn flapped downward and landed on Tsar's head. "Forever is a long word," said the raven. "It is a long word." "Ah, you see," said Tsar triumphantly. "Caliburn, the bird, of course, who can see into the future and into the past, and he doesn't think that witches are gone forever. All I know is if witches were not to be extinct for some reason, you wouldn't want to go meeting one in a dark place," said Caliburn, shivering. "What do you want a witch for, Tsar?" "I'm going to catch a witch," said Tsar, "and remove its magic and use it for myself." There was another horrified silence. Eventually Luther spoke. "That, little brother, is the worst plan I've ever heard." I love Tsar's confidence. "I've ever heard in the whole history of plan making. You're just jealous you didn't think of it," said Tsar. "I have a few questions," said Luther. "How are you going to catch the witch in the first place?" "That's what the net's for," said Tsar, taking a net out of his rucksack and holding it up. You couldn't fault his enthusiasm, at least. "One of us will volunteer to be wounded ever so slightly, and then the blood will attack the witch." "Oh, great," smiled Luther. "Now you're going to wound one of your sad little followers in a forest stuffed with raving werewolves and blood-sniffing ogre breasts. Come on, you're completely crazy. This plan is as pathetic as you are." Tsar ignored him. "And then I'll entangle this witch in this net when it attacks. Next question." "Okay, question 2, said Luther. "No living wizard has ever seen a witch, so how do you know what one looked like?" Tsar opened his rucksack and took out a book the size of a large atlas entitled The Spelling Book. "Ooh, every wizard is equipped with a spelling book given to them at birth." Tsar's was looking extremely the worse for wear. One part of it was invisible. It accidentally got dropped in invisibility potion. Another bit was burned so black you could barely read it. This happened when Tsar set the wizard camp on fire, and many of the pages were loose and dropping out all over the place. Too many adventures to go into here. Tsar opened the book to the contents page, which had the 26 letters of the alphabet written on it in very large gold script. Tsar spelled out witches by tapping on each letter in turn. Ooh, a bit like a computer. And whir! The book turned his own pages. Isn't that amazing? Imagine having a book with 1,000,000 pages where these bits are invisible at the front and the back. The chapters in the front turning invisible as the book riffled through the rest of them like an endless pack of cards until eventually they stopped at the right place. That's weird. It doesn't say what they look like, but they're green, I think, said Tsar. Someone else thought witches could turn invisible and they had acid blood, another that they squirted that blood through their eyes. I'm sure you will recognise one when we see it, said Tsar, impatiently shutting the spelling book. They're supposed to be pretty horrible, aren't they? Awesomely horrible, said Caliban gravely. The most terrifying creatures that ever walked this earth. So even if you do catch this witch, how will you persuade it to part with its magic? Asked Luther. I'm imagining that invisible green acid blood squirting witches that are most terrifying creatures that ever walked this earth will not give up their magic if you ask them pretty please. Aha! Said Tsar craftily. I've thought of that. With a grand flourish, he put on some gloves, reached into his rucksack and took out a small saucepan. Silence again. You do realise that's a saucepan, said Luther. This is no ordinary saucepan, said Tsar cunningly, and then he took a deep breath before he made his shocking announcement. This particular saucepan is made out of iron. Most of the wizards took a horrified step backwards. The sprites let out shrieks of alarm. Luther alone refused to be impressed. In fact, he laughed so hard, Tsar thought he might fall over. This is too good. You're going to fight a witch with a saucepan, sneered Luther. You're no great leader, Tsar. You're a liar and a loser. Our father is ashamed of you, and now I know why you're so keen to steal magic from a witch. There's a spelling competition at the winter celebration tonight, and you can't do magic. Tsar can't do magic. Look, they're all going, oh, iron, iron. Oh, Tsar turned. This is where you do feel sorry for Tsar. Tsar turned red with embarrassment, then white with anger. The fact he couldn't do magic yet was one of those hidden sores that you didn't want anyone else to see. Wizard children were not born magic. Their magic came in when they were about 12. Tsar was 13 and his magic still had not come in. Tsar had tried doing magic for countless hours. He'd tried really simple things like moving stuff with his mind. But it was as if it were a muscle he didn't really have. Relax, everyone said. Relax and it will happen. But it was like trying to move something with arms that weren't there. And recently he'd been beginning to worry. What if it had never happened? It was an unlikely calamity, but what a disgrace to the whole family it would be if a child had been born to the king enchanter who had no magic. The thought of it made him feel a little bit sick. Poor little baby Tsar, crooned Luther. Thinks he's such a big boy, but he can't do any magic whatsoever. My magic will come in, hissed Tsar. But in the meantime, I swear, he spat, his eyes so small with anger that he could barely see out of them. Look, there he is, facing up to Luther. I swear I'm going to catch a witch, and I will squeeze so much magic out of that witch, Luther, that I will blast you out of existence. Oh dear, look, may I just say that setting a trap to catch a witch sounds a really bad idea. Oh, Tsar, but he's not downhearted, you see, Tsar. He's going to try and get himself some magic, but I think he should be a bit patient. Anyway. Oh, yeah, grinned Luther. He reached into his rucksack and took out one of his staffs. A wizard's staff was about the size of a walking stick, and wizards concentrated their magic through them. You see, the magic concentrates when it comes through the staff. Your spelling won't work on me when I'm carrying iron, roared Tsar, rushing forward to hit Luther with the saucepan, which was perfectly true, but most unfortunately, in his charge forward, Tsar tripped over a long tangle of bramble, and his gloved hands lost their grip on the saucepan, and it went sailing over Luther's head and into the undergrowth. Luther pointed his staff at Tsar and whispered the word of a spell under his breath. Luther's body trembled as the magic quivered through him and channeled out of his hand into the staff, which concentrated into one quick, fierce, hot bolt of magic that blasted out at the end of the staff, hitting Tsar on the legs. Tsar stopped mid-charge, his feet stuck to the ground by Luther's spell. Ha 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 ha! Laughed Luther's followers. Remove the spell! Shouted Tsar, struggling to shift his feet, but it was as if they had turned to lead. No, I don't think I will, smiled Luther. Tsar lost his temper. He snapped his fingers. Row! Before anybody could blink and think, King Cat launched himself at Luther. Oh, that's his wonderful snow cat. That's Tsar's loyal. Huge jaws agape, 60 stone of greeny-grey killing machine, screaming in terror. Luther was pinned up against a tree trunk, looking aghast at the great cat's nightmare face inches away from his own, and what felt like 4 kitchen knives sinking into his shoulder. They had already drawn blood. None of Luta's own sprites or animals had time to move or protect him. One more click of my fingers, spat Tsar, and King Cat will take off your head. Cheat, panted Luta. You cheated. You're not supposed to use your animals to attack a fellow wizard. Remove the spell, shouted Tsar. Luta was now every bit as angry as Tsar himself. But what could he do? He pointed his staff at Tsar and removed the spell so that Tsar's feet could move, and then Tsar made a signal to King Cat to let Luta go. You're mad, a lunatic, raged Luta as King Cat dropped him, and Luta gazed in astonishment at the 4 neat, bleeding puncture wounds in his shoulder. Your animal has bitten me. If you dare to enter that spelling competition, I'm going to annihilate you. Luta turned to Tsar's followers. Who wants to come with me instead of staying here with this silly little madman and his stupid witch trap? Shouted Luta. One by one, Tsar's followers backed away from Tsar, oh poor old Tsar, and turned towards Luta and climbed on board their wolves or snowcats, muttering things like, "Sorry, Tsar, this is a bit too crazy even for you. And if witches aren't extinct, they are bad magic, Tsar. We shouldn't be here." You see, crowed Luta triumphantly, great leader has to have someone to lead, and no one wants to follow a magicless lunatic. Good luck with meeting your witch, loser boy. Oh. And then Luta rode away on the back of his wolf, followed by the most of the other wizards. Cowards! Roared Tsar, nearly crying, he was so angry. He ran into the undergrowth to retrieve the saucepan and shook his fist at their departing backs. We'll show you! We'll catch a witch, we'll take magic from it, and then we'll be so magic we'll fly without wings. Tsar turned with a sigh to the bedraggled remains of his followers. Why did Luta always have to spoil everything? Tsar had hardly anyone left now, only 3 young wizards whose magic hadn't come in either. A girl called Heliotrope and 2 boys, Rush and Darkish, a large lad with even larger ears, who had reached the age of 17 without showing any signs of magic whatsoever, and who was slightly on the dim side. That's their game. Good luck with meeting your witch, loser boy. Bother, he's left me with the losers. That was not very polite of Tsar, though. Tutted Tsar. Here, I say, Tsar, that's a bit unfair, protested Rush. Will we really fly without wings? Said Darkish, flapping his big arms up and down. Of course we will, promised Tsar, rubbing his hands together excitedly, for Tsar could never stay down for long. Those cowards are going to be so sorry they left. Darkish, you're the biggest, so you need to do the most digging, ordered Tsar. Rush, I'm afraid we're going to have to wound you a little to tempt the witch into the trap. And if anything goes wrong, I thought you said this mission was completely safe, said Rush suspiciously. Well, nothing is entirely safe. Tsar backtracked quickly. Life is dangerous, isn't it? After all, you could get killed just climbing a tree, like I nearly was just now. This is not just climbing a tree, spluttered Caliban from above as the 3 young wizards began to obey Tsar's orders. This is intentionally trespassing on warrior territory, trying to set a trap for the scariest life form that has ever walked this planet. Caliban sighed. Nobody was going to listen to him. Caliban perched rigid on the tree branch with his head under his wing, as if, for as long as he buried his head under there, if he couldn't see the future would not happen. But of course, the old bird knew that would not work. And that's a picture of Night Eye. There, beautiful. Night Eye. Tsar's snowcat. We'll have to have chapter 2 tomorrow.